BBC Radio.
6 Music.
You are now entering Parallel Universe. And wipe your feet on the way in.
Marc Riley, BBC 6 Music.
I'd like to play that for Sophie, who just suffered the indignity of hearing me sing a bit of it as walking through the green room. That is Norman Greenbaum and Spirit in the Sky. I'm Marc Riley, and the spirit in the room with me now is... Oh, is he there? Is he there? Is he there? Is he not there? Oh, I can hear him knocking on the table.
I'm here.
He's here.
Oh.
It's Rob Hughes, of course it is. Parallel Universe. Where are we, Bob?
Well, we're looking at Melody Maker, 25th of April, 1970. Oh, so young, Mark.
Oh, well, yeah, everybody was once.
Take it that way. What a start.
That was quite profound for
me. It was, yeah.
Actually.
I'll write that down.
And a bit rude as well.
Yeah, I'm very rude at the same time. Incredible. 2 in 1. So Norman Greenbaum, actually, he's a good-looking guy, isn't he?
He's not my type.
On the front cover, whose Spirit in the Sky jumped to the top spot in Melody Maker's Pop 30 this week, may come to Britain. A spokesman for Reprise said the American singer hopes to come here in the near future after fulfilling his US commitments. An album titled Spirit in the Sky will be released in Britain next month. One of those one-hit wonders, wasn't he?
He was, yeah, but it was a hit for somebody else second time round, wasn't it? Doctor and the Medics?
Yeah, that's the one, yeah, in the 80s. Also in the news, the Beatles' Let It Be album will be released in Britain on May the 8th. The film of the same name will have its British premiere simultaneously in London and Liverpool 12 days later. The album's been, in sort of parentheses here, reproduced by Phil Spector, which was always a contentious issue, wasn't it? But it's not known exactly what he's done to the tracks, which were recorded 14 months ago. The film, produced by Neil Aspinall and directed by Michael Lindsay Hogg, will have its world premiere in New York in May. So obviously Peter Jackson did that marathon documentary, which was brilliant, which came out last year. I believe he's working on another Beatles doc at the moment, but he's being very tight-lipped about it.
Is there anything left?
There must be.
Right.
Obviously he's got access to the complete vault, so there must be some stuff there.
Wow.
On the college column, summer promises some nice things in Britain's colleges and universities, it says, who've now returned for the summer term. It goes on to talk about Kent University having The Who and Edgar Broughton, and also Viv Stanshall. Leicester University has Heavy Jelly, Atomic Rooster and Taste. Then right at the end it says Stockport Schools Union is an association of sixth forms in the Stockport area, but their efforts deserve mention. They've organised a concert at the Poco a Poco in Stockport on the 27th of April, which features David Bowie and Hype, Barclay James Harvest, High Tide and the Purple Gang. The union feels that there's a lack of entertainment in the area and they're trying to organise better things. What a scoop.
Brilliant. I mean, I do know the site of that. The actual building itself is gone, but there is like a newer pub there now. It's on a corner, so okay. I know where it is. But yeah, the Hype didn't play, did they?
No, they didn't. Well, I believe Woody Woodmansey had an injured finger, so I think Bowie played on his own solo.
He did, and the Purple Gang famously had Granny Takes a Trip.
That's right.
Yeah.
Also in the news, Jose Feliciano and Country Joe and the Fish have been added to the bill of the Hollywood Music Festival in Newcastle under Lyme. Both are under exclusive contract for 1 day each, say the organisers, the Red Bus Company. Feliciano may fly in a few days earlier for a TV appearance. So this is quite an impressive lineup here. So Saturday afternoon, headliners, you had Family and then Ginger Baker's Air Force in the evening. Sunday afternoon headliners, Grateful Dead plus Free and Black Sabbath.
Right.
Sunday night, Feliciano and Traffic.
Excellent.
And The Who are to be the first and also apparently the last pop group to play one of the world's most famous opera houses, the Metropolitan in New York. They're to give the last performance of the opera Tommy at the Met in June. Their press officer told Melody Maker that the management of the Met say The Who are not only the first rock band to play there, they're also going to be the only one. They've accepted them because they're impressed with Tommy as a serious piece of music, written and performed as an opera. It would also seem this is the last performance of Tommy itself, because The Who feel that after the Met there's nowhere else to go to do it. I mean, they revived it so many times over the years, though, so that it did have legs, didn't it?
Right.
And Shuggy Otis. So this is page 10 here. Guitarist Johnny Otis Jr., better known as Shuggy Otis, last November celebrated his 16th birthday. He says, "I've just learned to think, play and understand the blues, just as the typical American learns to speak English." His father has a 30-year list of credits as a rhythm and blues activist, drummer, pianist, songwriter, nightclub operator and DJ. Shuggy says, "I remember a few years ago things got a bit tough, so my father put together a little rhythm and blues group who went out and played some funky little gigs gigs. I used to wear dark glasses and paint a moustache on so I'd look older. Lean, lithe, quiet to the edge of bashfulness, the junior Otis has a talent as natural as his father. Johnny, his father says, for a long time he was too shy to let me listen to him, but when I finally got him to play for me, it almost knocked me off the piano stool. I couldn't believe such a flow of deeply felt blues could come out of that little kid with a funny little amp. It was eerie. Besides, you're supposed to have suffered and tasted some of the hard facts of life before you can play that way, and here was a child doing it. That's the thing that gives sort of refutes that whole lie, doesn't it? That idea that you've got to live it to play it.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, funnily enough, I think it was only around about a month ago that we played Shuggy Otis for the first time. Shuggy's Boogie, it might have been called, but I'm trying to think. The only other person that I can think of called Shuggy, presuming it's the same name, which would be Shug, which is Rabsy Nesbitt's brother.
All right, okay. I wasn't sure where you were going there.
He's very posh, as I remember.
Yeah, he is, absolutely, yeah. Do you know, he also played on Hot Rats, not Rabsy Nesbitt's brother, but Shuggy Otis.
Right, okay.
So, so we're going to play Jenny Lee, aren't we, I think?
Okie dokie, we are.
Wait for my sweet Jenny.
Shuggy Otis, which Perfect Peter tells us is short for sugar.
I didn't know that.
It's a bit longer than sugar, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. It was supposedly one of those names in line as well to replace Mick Taylor, I think, in the Stones, wasn't he?
Yes.
I think.
Yeah, I remember that.
So we're with Melody Maker here, 25th of April 1970, and Shuggy Otis just had his debut album out, although the one to get really is Inspiration Information, which came out in 74. He was only 20 then, but, a prodigy. Page 18, you got Slade. How many music lovers have been guilty of prejudging and misjudging new Wolverhampton wonder boys Slade? A gang of troublemaking skinheads bent on a bit of bother when they turn up at gigs, who've jumped on the bandwagon and couldn't possibly have any musical talent, it asks. This, alas, is a popular conception, but one which they are now rapidly disproving, for clearly this idea could scarcely be further from the truth. You've only got to ask ex-Animals John Steele and Chaz Chandler, who sounded a vote of confidence in the teenage group, and the last time Chandler gave the thumbs up to somebody, of course, it was Jimi Hendrix. This week, Dave Hill, Jimmy Lee, Don Powell and Noddy Holder arrived at the Melody Maker offices looking no more and no less than typical skins. Over coffee, Jimmy and Noddy spoke of a harassing 2.5 years as great misfits of the music scene. Noddy says, well, we get tagged as a reggae band, which we're certainly not. When we're busy doing concerts, we get shunned by quite a few groups until we've actually played. Which is kind of key, isn't it? He said they're all about just creating an atmosphere and just having a good time.
I really wished I'd seen him. I was on the Bowie divide, so it was Slade versus Bowie kind of thing.
Yeah.
The glam, kind of the stompers. And I really wished I'd seen Slade. Obviously just an amazing band. But the thing about the skinhead look that they had, it was just a kind of an affectation, and it was kind of foisted on them by Chaz Chandler, as I understand it. So
yeah, as a bit of a gimmick.
Yeah.
Just finishes here. Noddy continues in his broadly emphatic Midlands accent. He says, you won't find us freaking out on stage. That sort of thing bores us to tears. We just play good, solid numbers. As we're concerned, a skinhead's just a bloke who doesn't want to look like a hippie. Fair enough.
They don't look like hippies, but they did kind of embrace the glam thing, obviously, didn't they? I mean, Dave Hill embraced it and then squeezed it to death, didn't he?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah, with the old super yob guitar and everything. Kevin Ayres, interview by Richard Williams, says Kevin Ayres said he wants to involve more people in his music and to make every gig more of a party than an ordinary job. Goes on to sort of recap on his career, the fact he's got his first solo album out, Joy of a Toy, and the fact that, Soft Machine wasn't really the vehicle for him, or it wasn't in the beginning, because they were doing sort of whimsical, sort of psychedelic pop songs, weren't they? And then as soon as they went a little bit sort of avant-garde and jazz, he was out of there.
It made me laugh that then, because he said that Kevin Ayres, wants to get more people involved, primarily so he wouldn't have to do so much work himself, because as much as I love Kevin Ayres, we all know that he liked his hobbies much more than, putting his nose to the grindstone, pardon the phrase.
Absolutely, yeah, he did. In fact, he probably alludes to this a little bit. He says, talk about leaving Soft Machine, he says he took some advance money from the album, fled to Ibiza, took an apartment for a few months. He says, I guess I wanted to get back to a more pop thing with rather more lyrical tunes. Robert Wyatt says, I should just make records like I make demos, very simply. But in the studios, I always want to use everything I can, and I always get to wanting to sound like everybody else. I like singing at parties best, where there's plenty of wine and people playing bottles and spoons and things. I'd like to make all my gigs like that.
Well, yeah, that's what he just said about making his gigs like parties and wanting to go to parties. I mean, he was a party animal, wasn't he? No doubt.
No doubt about that. On the album front, you got Lord Such and Heavy Friends, which we have mentioned before. A review by Chris Welch. It says, stand by for Led Zeppelin 3 with Jimmy Page and John Bonham thundering away on several tracks. It amounts to a bonus Led Zeppelin album and more than makes up for his lordship's unimpressive voice. Make no mistake, this is a fine set of friendly rock, and David's voice is not too painfully incompetent. I wonder if that was on the sticker on the sleeve.
Damned by faint praise.
Yeah. Always a glutton for publicity. It's not wholly insignificant that Lord Such appears no less than 44 times on the sleeve. I like that idea. Also, Jeff Beck's on there, Noel Redding too.
Nicky Hopkins.
Yeah, everybody who's anybody. And Tony McPhee, we should go to Groundhogs really, because he's got a new album out which features an astonishing single.
Right, okay, we're going to play Eccentric Man now, are we? Well, it really doesn't get any better than this for my money. One of the greatest songs ever. I've got 3 copies of Thank Christ for the Bomb, and I would recommend anybody who likes rock music to go out and get it, because that for me is better than anything that Zeppelin ever did.
That's amazing, isn't it?
I love it.
Yeah, so we're looking at Melody Maker here, 25th of April 1970. So the feature on the Groundhogs. Tony McPhee, it says, excuse me, is one of the most underrated guitarists in Britain. The unfortunate thing is only a perceptive few recognises his outstanding talents. Those who can remember still associate the Groundhogs with John Lee Hooker. We did them on the PU a couple of weeks ago, didn't we?
Yeah.
But the group clearly aren't going to become one of the blues leftovers. Their new album is called Thank Christ for the Bomb, a highly original document which also condenses some fragmented thoughts of McPhee in a rather more thought-provoking fashion than normal. He says, haven't made it blatantly obvious, but there's a theme running through the second side. I just don't want people to start comparing it to Tommy or something like that. It's basically about a fellow with a lot of money who can't do anything else with it, so he becomes a tramp, an eccentric man who ends up not quite so eccentric. There's a story behind it.
Brilliant.
Gigs of the week this week, got The Who at Sheffield University. Together at the Roundhouse event, Ivor Cutler, John Cleese and Tim Brooke Taylor, Spontaneous Music Ensemble, Alexis Corner, Uriah Heep and Pan's People. There's an eclectic bill.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be that tempted, to be honest.
Not even by Pan's People?
No. I have a colour, maybe.
Yeah, The Soft Machine at Fairfield Hall, Croydon. John Martin at High Wycombe College of Technology. Status Quo at the Market on the Disco and Dance Night. Didn't say where, though. Right. Brinsley Schwartz at Mothers in Birmingham. Mott the Hoople at the Greyhound in Croydon. That was one of those famous nights, wasn't it? That was a stronghold of theirs.
Yep.
The Maytals and the Pyramids at California Ballroom in Dunstable. Taj Mahal at the Free Trade Hall in Manchester. Genesis at Imperial College London. Screaming Lord Sutch and Heavy Friends, part of the 7 hours of non-stop rock and good vibes at El Court Youth Centre in Potter's Bar.
I wonder which of the Heavy Friends turned up for that.
I wonder. Doesn't bill any. And Kevin Ayres and the Whole World at Stonehenge in Oxford, Procol Harum at Lancaster University, and Taste at Aberdeen Music Hall. Camden Rock Festival at the Roundhouse. You've got Marty Wilde, Joe Brown, Cuddly Dudley, Emperor Roscoe, Family, Taste, Egg, Gypsy, Keith Hartley, Taj Mahal, and It's a Beautiful Day. Not a bad weekend. On the live front, you've got Soft Machine at Ronnie Scott's in London, and Creedence Clearwater Revival at, doesn't say where it is. Oh yeah, Straits, Freaks, Skinheads and Greasers stood shoulder to shoulder last Tuesday night, united in their thunderous acclaim for Creedence. It was the band's British debut at the Royal Albert Hall, and the diverse nature of the audience gives a clue to their phenomenal success, for they play the kind of music which cuts right across all barriers of taste or culture, basic down-home rock which causes anybody with a soul to be stirred and hands to clap or feet to stomp. Would have loved to have seen Creedence. They were outselling the Beatles at that point, weren't they?
They were ginormous, weren't they? I never
huge.
realised that. Right, we've got to go, haven't we, Bobbert?
We have.
All right, thanks to everybody involved in the programme. Don't forget, tomorrow night we've got Sea Power live in session doing a mini gig for us, and we'll see you then. And I'm presuming Tom Robinson is next, in for Gid. And we'll leave you with Kenny Rogers in the first edition and Something's Burning. Ta-ta!
Marc Riley, BBC 6 Music.
And shut the door on your way out.